I'm Sudha Bhuchar. I've been in the theatre for over 30 years. I studied maths and sociology, so I'm certainly not an academic of the theatre. I came into the theatre because of who I am, British Asian, wanting to tell our stories.
Hello, I'm Sudha Bhuchar and you're watching me on DESIblitz.com.
DESIblitz.com.
So thank you so much for speaking with us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
I wanted to start right at the beginning in terms of your childhood and your early experiences in Tanzania, India, here, and how did those cultures and experiences shape you going into kind of playwriting, acting?
I think they're very, very much, who I am is the reason I've ended up doing, very accidentally the creative path. So definitely my sort of itinerant childhood of being born in Tanga, Tanzania. Then we had, we went from Africa to India, Africa, India, ending with Africa, Norfolk, London. And all of those things as a child, it was quite unsettling at times, because you went to different schools, it was hard. But actually now it's like the rich storehouse that you kind of don't realize how subconsciously you're drawing on in my work. Yeah.
Obviously all those kind of experiences and things that you were exposed to led up to Tamasha. Could you just explain a bit the inspiration behind that and why you felt that was so important to launch?
Well, I mean, before Tamasha, I actually started my life with Tara Arts, and Jatinder Verma, who my sister Suman and we'd met them at a Diwali function. So, I was an academic child, but I ended up this accidental route via Tara. And then it was at Tara that I met Christine Landon Smith. We were both in a show called The Broken Thigh. And she'd been to India and she'd adapted Mulk Raj Anand's novel Untouchable with her students, and we were really close friends. And so initially we just set up Tamasha in order to do Untouchable. But it's like one thing organically led to the next. And then, about 10 years later, we realized the significance that it was much bigger than us and it needed to, take a cohort of artists with us, and the company grew and grew. So, yeah.
Tara and Tamasha as well, they had a very importance on Asian stories and those kind of experiences. Do you think since you kind of launched that all those years ago, the landscape for Asian playwrights or actors or theatre has changed?
Yes, I mean, people ask this it's a big question, Yes, of course, there's a lot more, there's a lot more volume of people coming through. But I think in many ways it's quite difficult still, as lone artists, because I was still amazed to read that, South Asians are quite one of the we are the least underrepresented, not the least, the most underrepresented community, global majority. So still, I think there's still a long way to go. It's not like there's a critical mass of people coming through all the time in the buildings, in the venues. But equally, there are a lot of people taking it into their own hands, curating their own voice, creating their own companies, fundraising and putting on their own shows. So yes, definitely.
Why do you think there isn't that much of a, push in terms of South Asian or British Asian people getting into theatre? I mean, there was always a conversation between, parents and their child and wanting them to get into maybe conventional occupations, doctors, lawyers, or whatever it may be. Do you think there is a creative push for parents to bring the child into more creative
I mean, I
careers?
think still parents, I mean, yes, definitely, like every generation sees role models more than the generation before, you know. So I know that a lot of people do come up to me and say, oh, watching you on television made me able to tell my mother that, look, people can do this, you know. But I still think, I mean, I'm a parent myself, and I know what a precarious career it is. And it isn't visible enough to people that there are these pathways that they can see their children succeed. But it's definitely, you know, it's changed a lot. But I'm not sure we've yet to the point where people will say, you know, Putter, when you grow up, I want you to be an actor, you know.
Representation is kind of on a big scale now, especially on TV. You know, during the 90s, it was quite big. You yourself, you know that as well. Do you think, especially on TV nowadays, Asian representation is there, or it's becoming more mainstream?
Look, I know I don't know, obviously. I mean, I saw a study recently by Diamond Diversity, which actually said that things have got worse, which I definitely, you see, when there was a lot of people making work that seemed to be, you know, like I was in a show called Family Pride set in the Midlands, and it was on Central TV prime time about 3 Asian families. So we had those kind of shows, but now everybody thinks that diversity's done because, you know, you have Asian people on Bridgerton, you know, but it'll be a few family, you know, a few people, a handful of people are doing very, very well. But that doesn't mean that our stories are coming out, you know, in their kind of depth and nuance. That is still quite hard, I think.
And in terms of your storytelling as well, when you're approaching these type of experiences, how do you approach them creatively, but then try to remain authentic as well?
I mean, I think my whole career, like, you know, through Tara, Tamasha, you know, what's really always interested me is the sort of poetry of the everyday, the kind of epic in our everyday lives and how that can tell a bigger story. So I've done work like Child of the Divide, you know, which is the story of a lost child, and it's during the partition of India. So you get the backdrop, this big canvas, you know, the kind of work that I make. You know, we did the kitchen of a Balti restaurant, you know, a story called Balti Kings with Shaheen Khan, you know, which is about the people that make the nation's favorite dish, the chicken tikka masala. But, you know, so I'm always interested in how you tell the small person's story and paint a bigger canvas through works that touch the heart, you know.
And has those inspirations changed as you've kind of gone through your career, or is it still the same?
I think that for me, something has to like really touch me. I do quite like slow theatre, you know, it's like things that take a while to percolate. So, for instance, my solo show, which I'm doing tonight, you know, Evening Conversations, it actually started at MAC. So being interviewed here at the Midlands Arts Centre is really special because I'm coming back to where it started. And, you know, it's a show that I've been gently developing over time, you know, and that's inspired by my conversations with my sons. So, again, you know, it's a sort of, one of my friends and colleagues, Carl Miller, he calls my work epic in miniature. And I take that as a compliment, you know. Now I've really come miniature because I'm doing my solo show.
You know, your career has spanned different mediums, TV, radio, theatre. Are there any specific platforms which you prefer the most doing creatively, or are they all the same?
No, I enjoy, I mean, obviously being in the room with people, like doing Evening Conversations is a sheer pleasure because I really am. You know, I don't feel like I'm acting because I'm being myself. And I feel like I'm bringing my full self into the room. But, you know, I love doing screen work, radio. They all have, I love acting. And writing can be quite painful. So, you know, it's quite nice to have the joy of acting where you're doing your job and then you can leave it behind, you know.
You've been involved in a lot of activism as well, and you've partnered before with East London Genes and Health.
Yes.
Could you tell us a bit more about that and how you think the arts can be a platform for addressing health-related issues?
Well, I'm very, very interested in the bridging that thing between science, well-being, and the arts. So with East London, many South Asian people, we have a problem with hearts, and especially Asian men. My sister and I, we lost our father very young, and our brother at the age of 43. It was sort of sudden devastation. And then you realize that story is being replicated in Asian families. Very recently, the industry, and we lost, Abdul, who runs Tamasha Theatre. So actually, it was very important to me to do something connected to that. But this was, I had done this from 2016, which my brother's death sort of prompted that. So yes, this was a story like the East London Genes and Health. They're mapping out the genomes of, Pakistani and Bangladeshi people in East London, because actually we're also underrepresented in research, So we have to make advances in medicine at the same time, but I think arts can help. So I also did a project around the theme of touch, which was commissioned by Wellcome Collection and Radio 4 and Revolution Arts, because they did the world's largest study on the role of touch and well-being. And again, our people are not represented in those studies, because people in Bury Park, Luton, are not going to be, filling out a survey that they've heard of on Radio 4. So actually, our we can tell our stories and illuminate those things,
And do you think that your reaction to that type of work, whether it's health related or just in general in theatre, is it being reacted to well by not just Asian or South Asian people, but the wider community as well?
I mean, look, my work at the, I'm not saying it necessarily is reaching lots, since I've, it's not necessarily reaching volumes and volumes of people, but the good thing is there's a legacy, like the whole Touchstone Tales is online, you can listen to them, you can watch it, so it endures and you can, keep going back to it. I did a project called COVID and Me with a company called Theatre of Debate, and these were monologues and real stories about South Asian, there were two characters that I did. We were overrepresented in the deaths of COVID and underrepresented in the volunteering for the vaccines research and development. So look, we do what we can, right?
I just wanted to touch a bit more on evening conversations that you're doing tonight, which kind of touches itself on themes of kind of identity and culture. Have there been any instances where you faced, challenges related to your own culture and identity, and how did you overcome that?
Okay, interestingly enough, while, as I said, Evening Conversations is inspired by my sons, and I've sort of always thought that our banter was really incisive, entertaining, challenging to me. And one of the challenges my sons present to me is they said, you're the one with the identity crisis, Mum, not us. And actually, while doing Evening Conversations, I've absolutely I do not have an identity crisis. I'm a multilingual person who grew up in 3 continents. The challenges I faced is how other people narrow how they look at me, And now as a, Asian woman who's turned 60, so I've got the triple whammy of age, race and gender. And people think that you're the sort of, there's one Asian mum type, But it's not me who has the crisis, So, I feel like for me, doing Evening Conversations, I've come full circle to myself. And I'm literally on my own. I've written it. It's DIY theatre. It's in a suitcase. It comes. I do it, and and I think that's a real hallmark of Butcher Boulevard, which is my company that I set up with my sister Suman, very much my collaborator, in 2016, and it's about a place for renewal, reflection, collaborations with arts and non-arts, spaces. So you can do a big work like Child of the Divide and take it on a tour, and you can do evening conversations. And I'm really delighted that I'm actually adapting Sita Brahmachari's book, Artichoke Hearts. So that's another beautiful story that touches the heart. I won't say too much because watch this space.
Do you think a lot of South Asians or British Asians now, they're still struggling with kind of identity crisis? Or do you think, like you said, everyone can be who they want to be regardless?
I think everyone, I think we're coming to we can fully, we're as richly individual as anyone. And I hope that people stop sort of even saying that, even if you're having a crisis, we're not all having the same crisis, So I think people are, it's nice to see that, say things like the partition, for instance. We did a show called A Tainted Dawn, which marked the 50th anniversary of the partition. And at that time, there wasn't like a wide interest, But now, from that to the 70th anniversary and to the 75th anniversary, it's like we do need to understand this country needs to own its colonial history and the legacies of that, and how all of us rocked up here. And I think the younger generations are becoming very interested and wanting to speak about it loudly,
And what does your history mean to you?
My history, well, my history is who I am, but it's what's shaped me. But I've been in this country for 50 years next January, so all of it is part of who I am. Yeah.
And across your expansive career, maybe it's a bit difficult to pinpoint, but can you name a certain milestone or achievement that you've had which has always stuck with you?
There's been a few like that, but people always ask me, like yesterday somebody asked me if you could only choose one play. I can't really do that in a way. All of it is part of, what I've done. But certainly when I wrote Child of the Divide, it was inspired, all the work that's been inspired by my children. Now, although it's the story of it's based on a short story by Bisham Sahani called Pali. It's a story of a lost Hindu boy who then gets taken in by a Muslim family, adopted, and then his real father comes to find him, and he's a child of the divide. That play I wrote in 2006, and what's great about it is it's had so many iterations. 2007 we went to America, 2016 I did it in the lead up to 2017. We had a big tour. We went to Harbourfront in Canada in 2018. So I feel like it's one of those plays that I hope endures, but so do I hope I carry on doing evening conversations and other of my work, the Touch project still needs to be, appreciated.
Lastly, what advice could you offer, especially to British or South Asian people wanting to get into this industry?
Gosh. It's hard. So, although there's a lot more younger people now who are going from drama school to Hollywood, so that's a different experience. But don't think about becoming a star. Just think about how you're bringing yourself to the work. and how you're going to make your own agency, not just waiting for the phone to ring, because it's hard, you know. So think about the long journey rather than, you know, how can I become a star instantly.
DESIblitz.com